Rick Springfield, what did he say about Nicole Kidman and Keith Urban? The newly divorced pair should start their single lives with one vision in sight, and that is getting laid a lot. Oh, very interesting. They point out that he's been married since 1984 with his original issue wife. 41st anniversary. So they say, like, what does he know about this stuff? Well, I don't know. Maybe he knows something we don't. Hey, what's happening, everybody out there in live stream land? Welcome to the I Just Want This Done Divorce podcast. We are coming at you live and nationwide or worldwide, actually, Rahul.
Yeah, Mr. Worldwide.
We went from being Mr. 630 to being Mr. Worldwide to copy my man Pitbull, who was Mr. 305, and then he went to being Mr. Worldwide. By the way, a few years ago, I thought it was funny. He played at the Naperville Rib Fest, world famous Naperville Rib Fest, and I said he went from being Mr. 305 to being Mr. Worldwide to being Mr. 630, which is the area code out there. Okay, enough frivolity. We've got serious business to talk about because we're now broadcast professionals. Episode 50. Get excited.
Big 5-0.
Big 5-0. Thank you for being here for the ride, Rahul. You've been awesome.
Thank you.
Thanks so.
Thank you.
Enough of the self-congratulatory talk. We appreciate all the followers. Like, share, and subscribe for more, please, so that not just my mom is watching. We're joking. It's way more than that now. So we are very appreciative of all of our listeners and folks that listen live stream, watch us on YouTube, and listen on your favorite podcast platform. We really appreciate it. And we're glad you enjoy the show. And we just want to bring more like that to you. So, brief programming note for those of you watching the live stream. The Blaine Anderson interview show drops tomorrow. That would be Friday, the 23rd of January. And it'll drop during the day once the show is ready. So you're definitely going to want to see and hear that show. It was really great. It was very funny. She was awesome. We had a great conversation, and you'll enjoy it. She's an expert dating coach, and she's a matchmaker, and was a great show. Okay, so let's hit the stories for today. Top story is who doesn't like a Nicole Kidman, Keith Urban story? So this is interesting because I see the clickbait headline.
Mm-hmm. And you fell for it.
Yeah, I got to go for it. You know, the headline says, Nicole Kidman and Keith Urban receive bizarre advice 2 weeks after divorce. Well, I'll bite. You know, by the way, we're doing this as a public service for you, ladies and gentlemen. We're not just, it's not just our interest. We're doing this as a service for you. So what is the story about, do you ask? Well, I will tell you.
What is this so bizarre that it has to make headlines?
Right. So I'm like, okay, what's the advice they get? So divorce advice is already rolling in. This story, by the way, Why Entertainment, known for its hard-hitting, cutting-edge journalism. So this is Yahoo's Entertainment. Divorce advice is already rolling in for Nicole Kidman and Keith Urban. I'm quoting the story as they have officially called it quits! Exclamation point. I don't know why it's like, okay. The former lovebirds recently signed their divorce papers, officially ending their almost 2-decade-long marriage, which we've talked about in a previous show, and his parenting agreement, all that. We're not going to go over that again. Being single once again after so long, jumping into adventurous romance, their words, not mine, with new partners might be an item to add to their lists. Nicole Kidman met Keith Urban at the Good Day USA Gala, get it? That's the Australian twist, in LA in 2005. By the way, is Keith Urban the guy that kind of copied Jimmy Buffett with wearing the bathing suits and stuff like that, and trying to be sort of the kind of like beach country thing? No?
I'm not sure.
So those of you who know Buffett, know he sort of played on the island boy, southern thing, country, and he's a legend. And by the way, brilliant businessman before he passed away. But I always thought one of those singers, and I think it's Keith Urban, kind of copied that mojo with his wear bathing suits to the concert. I'm kind of a beach guy, but I'm a country singer vibe. Anyway, but I digress. Okay. They met at this thing 2005. They dated, tied the knot in a ceremony at St. Patrick's Estate in Sydney the following year. Okay. Blah, blah, blah. Anyway, let's get to the punchline, Rafe. All right. So Rick Springfield, coming out of left field, by the way, since where did the former soap opera star, by the way, an 80s, musician, famous for Jesse's Girl was one of his hit songs, right? Mm-hmm. And actually pretty good singer. I would say that he can sing, he can play guitar. Turns out it wasn't just a soap opera thing. He actually has some talent. And somehow he's kind of come back in the news. And maybe that's this whole 80s are back thing. but he's kind of come back around. It's Sirius XM has him DJing for them on like their 80s channel, I think on Fridays. Anyway, I heard him say some kind of wacky stuff on one of his DJ sets, and I thought, I don't know, Rick seems a little out there. Well, what did he say about Nicole Kidman and Keith Urban? First of all, my first question is, why does anybody care what Rick Springfield says about somebody's divorce? But okay, we'll go with it. I'm not even going to get into the background, but apparently he was on some show and he said, the newly divorced pair should start their single lives with one vision in sight, and that is getting laid a lot. Oh, very interesting. This would sound, and this is a quote from the story. This is me quoting the story. These words sound bizarre coming from Springfield, as he has no experience in the divorce field. I love how Y Entertainment's now concerned that he isn't an expert witness on this. But of course, it's Rick Springfield. They point out that he's been married since 1984 with his original issue wife, 41st anniversary. So they say, like, what does he know about this stuff? Well, I don't know. Maybe he knows something we don't. So there you have it. Anyway, now you know that the amazing post-divorce recovery advice is go out there and jump in bed with a lot of people. By the way, not our advice. We're not professionals in this field.
Yeah, I'm just curious. Now that Rick Springfield said this, you know what I think? You know what I wonder? What does Ja think? What does Ja Rule think about this? I'd love to know.
That's the old, isn't that the bit from Chappelle?
Yes, I think that was
we
Chappelle.
want to know what Ja Rule thinks.
I'd love to know now that we know Rick Springfield's version. I'd like to know what Ja thinks.
What does Ja think about this? Okay. I took too much time in that story, so Rahul, save us, please.
No, I think you're going to tell us about Todd Bridges here.
Thank you. Thank you for keeping me on track. All right. Well, okay, tying in with our 80s theme, folks, and we got this episode's thematically, because we are masters in broadcast journalism, tying back to our 80s theme, Todd Bridges. Remember Different Strokes for you kids who grew up in the 80s? I do. Okay. He announced his split from wife Bettijo Hirschi after 3 years. While not a long marriage, okay, let me read this story briefly. This is TMZ, by the way, a source for all things amazing with divorce stuff. By the way, Todd not looking as I recall him back in the day.
Yeah.
Time has not served him well. That's my opinion. Maybe it hasn't served me well either, but it's been harsh on him. So they're calling it quits. The Different Strokes star told TMZ, and I quote, after much thought and mutual respect, we've decided to end our marriage. During our time together, we shared meaningful moments, but apparently not that many. They're only married 3 years. Okay. That's my comment. We've chosen to go our separate ways, asked for privacy, and wish her nothing but love and happiness moving forward, but apparently not love and happiness from Todd Bridges. They just got married a few years ago in a low-key Beverly Hills ceremony. You know how the kids say low-key now everywhere?
Yeah.
They'll say like, low-key, I'm hungry. Stop that. Stop the 672 kids. We're annoyed by it. And I'm not a boomer, so don't call me a boomer. Thank you. The pair met on dating app 9 months before their wedding, quickly hitting it off, getting engaged 6 months later. Todd is a stepfather to Bettijo's 4 children. Well, very briefly, I guess, has 2 of his own. His kids are 29 and 28. This was his second marriage. He was married from 98 to 2012. So good luck to Todd. At least the statement they made is one of those kind of good public statements that is not nasty and low key. So we wish him the best in having a smooth process and that they're doing it the right way. So, but we thought you'd be interested for you 80s Different Strokes that's what's up with Todd Bridges. So he's now eligible, by the way, if you're looking for a dude who's about my age, who's getting those residuals from the reruns of Different Strokes. Okay, save us now, Rahul, from this.
Yeah, so we'll go on from the 80s. We'll move forward. Yeah, so this is very interesting, actually. I mean, not that everything else isn't interesting, but legally interesting. So Shannen Doherty, who passed away on July 13th of 2024, I think. So what happens is that she had filed for divorce from her ex-husband, Kurt Iswarenko. They filed in L.A., and LA County, California. The judge signed the divorce. So this is the background. Judge signed the divorce on July 15th. And keep track of the dates here because this is important. So, when people agree, you have a marital settlement agreement or some sort of a contract that people agree to as to how the finances will be split up between them. So they reached this settlement. During this time, she had a battle with cancer. So she signed the paperwork on July 12th. He signed the paperwork on July 13th of 2024. I believe July 13th of 2024 was a Saturday. I'll have to double check, but I believe it was a Saturday. So then they submitted it to the court, and the judge signed the divorce judgment on July 15th. However, unfortunately, Shannen died on July 13th, the day he signed the paperwork. So the judge signed the divorce on July 15th, and they got their divorce. However, now on January 14th, so about a week or so ago, 2025, Kurt Iswarenko filed legal documents in LA Superior Court to challenge the divorce settlement. He's arguing that the divorce court could not divorce them, essentially, because she was dead by the time the judge signed the divorce paperwork. Essentially, the divorce settlement was brought in the wrong court, and the court has no jurisdiction to enforce the terms of an agreement because of this. So, question then became, or it is now, if someone dies after they sign a contract to get divorced before the judge signs off on it, can the judge still sign off on it, or does the judge lose the right or the jurisdiction to divorce someone after they died, and should it go to probate court, for example, to enforce this contract? So that's the question that they're trying to figure out. Obviously, there's a monetary gain here. He's not doing this just to figure out, what the legal nuances are. This came nearly 2 months after, as the article on People says, is her estate said he failed to fulfill several monetary obligations and provisions of the settlement. So essentially, he was supposed to do a bunch of stuff, maybe provide tender money, whatever the case might be, to the estate. But now he's saying he shouldn't have to do this because they couldn't have legally gotten divorced if, in fact, she was dead before the judge signed it. So legally, very interesting. We'll have to see what the court comes back with.
So normally in a divorce case, if you have a divorce case pending and nothing's signed and somebody dies, the case is over. And you just follow whatever estate plan that people have. If they have a will and trust, whatever, you have to just follow that. And the divorce case is a zero. It doesn't mean anything. So that's significant. And we tell people to be careful about things like life insurance policies and stuff like that because, well, insurance policies, beneficiary designations, all those things, because these things can happen and you have to be aware of it. So what's interesting here is, first of all, he's filing really late, like way after this happened, right?
A year and a half. And only, I think, after her estate filed something against him.
Yeah, so there may be some issues there about it might, I know in Illinois that would be considered very late to file, although it's allowed. But you'd have to really convince that, you need to take action promptly in these cases if you try to vacate a divorce judgment. And waiting a year and a half is not a good idea. That's going to be a challenge in and of itself for the person to overcome. But in our state, we have not just signed settlement documents, but we have what's called a prove-up, either by affidavit, parties sign, other documents get submitted to a court that basically say the agreement is fair and reasonable, not unconscionable, that they agree to the terms, all these other things, or they have to testify to those facts. And just a signed settlement agreement doesn't end a divorce case in our state. So it would kind of amount to a zero, and it wouldn't be effective as a will. So I think in our state, if we just had a signed marital settlement agreement, do you agree, Rahul, that if they signed the MSA, then they died, in my opinion, it would be a nothing?
It would be a nothing at best. And depending on what their individual estate plans say, they might argue that this served almost as a post-nuptial agreement but again, the word nuptial. So, I mean, you don't have a post-nup if you're dead. So really, is this a modification to any trust documents or estate planning documents is really going to be the question. What I would advise people to do in such a situation is, if you know someone, and this wasn't a car accident where someone unexpectedly died. If someone has a terminal illness, and, I understand that, I don't think anyone expected her to, pass a day before at that moment, right? Maybe she just didn't wake up one morning, but it's always best practices in that situation to do what is called a bifurcated divorce, where you ask the court essentially to say, so courts, what the order of operations typically is get all the stuff, the issues resolved, then get divorced, then the divorce gets entered. You would tell the judge to do it backwards. Say, because of all these issues, give me the divorce first, then we'll fight about the issues. I think in that situation, this could have been enforced.
Yeah, if they got divorced, if she then passed away, the estate could probably step in on her behalf and resolve the rest of the issues.
Right. And this contract would have been, I'm not saying it's not valid now, but the agreement that they entered into before she died to divide the assets because they were already divorced. So that's just sort of general unsolicited advice for people is to do just that.
By the way, this is not legal advice.
This is just unsolicited personal individual advice. Your mileage may vary, of course, as always.
The other tip would be check and change your estate plans. So if you're in the middle of a divorce, it's smart to go in and change your estate plan, because if you say, I'm going to give everything to my husband, and you die in the middle of your divorce case, everything's going to go to your husband. or whatever. So keep that in mind. What's smart is to go in and check your estate plan and change it if necessary, if you think that's what you'd like to do. Okay, so that's a really interesting one, especially that it's this far after the divorce.
Mm-hmm.
So this one is interesting. Jessica Simpson and Eric Johnson are splitting, and they have been married 10 years. The singer and actress, 44, her former NFL player husband, 45, are separating after 10 years of marriage. Simpson tells People exclusively. Good on People. They got the exclusive. This is a quote from Jessica Simpson. Eric and I have been living separately, navigating a painful situation in our marriage. Simpson said in a statement, our children come first. Good. That's my comment.
Mm-hmm.
And we're focusing on what's best for them. We're grateful for all the love and support that it's been coming our way and appreciate privacy. Okay. Kind of the standard Hollywood statement. The news comes less than a week after Simpson, who shares 3 children with Johnson, posted a sunny selfie to Instagram reminding her followers that life is short. Smile while you still have teeth. Winky, crazy face emoji. Okay. Johnson was spotted without his wedding ring in November. Dun, dun, dun. Telltale. That's a warning. They don't have the wedding ring on. That's trouble, folks. I got mine on, Julie. Here you go. At the same time, Simpson teased her comeback to music with a cryptic Instagram post that featured photos of herself in a recording studio. Okay. Interviews in my Nashville, this is a quote from Jessica. Interviews in my Nashville music room where I unearthed my singular magic. She captioned the images. This comeback is personal. It's an apology to myself for putting up with everything I did not deserve. Could that be a swipe to the husband, perchance? A source told People days later that the singer and her husband live very much separate lives. They were married in 2014 after 4 years of dating. Rahul, what do we say about 4 years of dating?
It's a long time. And
we say,
yeah,
red alert.
Red alert. That, along with destination weddings, along with secret weddings that nobody knows about, obviously very extended periods of dating during adulthood, I should say. If you're dating from ages 17 to 24 and then get married at 24, I mean, you guys were kids. That doesn't matter. But if you're full-fledged adults, 4 or 5 year dating, and it could end well. I mean, I'm sure there's a bunch of stories of people who are happily ever after, but there's also a lot that are not. So
I can say increasingly in my experience as a divorce lawyer doing consultations, the trend line has been dramatic to more and more cases where a client comes in and says, we were together for 8 years and then we got married. We've been married 2 years and we're getting divorced. And it's like, well, why was it time to get married 8 years in? Or I had one, they were together 13 years and finally got married, and then together a few and got divorced and already had kids along the way. Very interesting. In any event, they have a few kids together, so we hope it goes smoothly. They met through a mutual friend and got engaged after 6 months of dating. Wait a minute. This math isn't working out.
Math isn't mathing.
It says they married in July 2014 after 4 years of dating. Then it goes back. It says they met a mutual friend. Oh, they were engaged after 6. The long engagement, Rahul.
Oh, okay. Well, change the little front and say engaged for 4 years is still
similar,
but worse.
The never-ending engagement, also problematic. Everybody's like, when's the date? And then after a while, they stop asking. Not good. Anyway, we'll see what happens with that one. So tell us about the guy's name I love to mispronounce, Timothée Chalamet.
Yeah, as they say, Timothée Chalamet, Mr. French. So rumors, I guess, are swirling this week that an engagement between him and his beau, Kylie Jenner, is imminent. But there's a condition that he wants to secure a major career win, like an Oscar, before the proposal. He just won a Golden Globe, though, his first Golden Globe, where he beat out, Leo DiCaprio. So, I mean, maybe timing is now. Maybe he wants one more this award season. I don't know.
I bet what he said to her is, I want to get just one award. Then he gets the Golden Globe. He's like, well, I meant an Oscar.
I want something like an Oscar first. And then, right?
Golden Globe is not enough.
Right, exactly. So, I mean, anyone can get a Golden Globe, right? You want an Oscar.
They just give those out like popcorn.
So this is one of those things we talk about where, people of influence, people, affluent people, wealthy, celebrities, they like to stitch a narrative where they like to time these things to status and milestones, so that do these things when their stock is at its highest. So, you get more eyeballs on everything, which is, again, in this day and age, more clicks, more marketing, more money. So I think it's one of those situations where I think they're looking for the right timing, and the timing might be close. So we'll keep you posted, of course, as always.
There's all kinds of stories online right now about these guys as a couple. There's a story on Y Entertainment saying Timothée Chalamet has brought out Kylie Jenner's softer side. Oh, nice. Apparently been together 3 years and have a very easy, chill relationship, a source tells Us Weekly. And remember, this is the Kardashian-Jenner, juggernaut.
Yes.
She's
a billionaire.
This is a business enterprise, ladies and gentlemen. And Timothée's 3 years has fully integrated himself into the Kardashian-Jenner family. What could that even be like? Can you imagine?
I cannot even imagine.
The family's just dominating. Switching to Desmond Scott and Kristy Scott, there's big news that this couple's getting divorced. Who are they, you ask? You probably should know because they are dominant on social media. If you're on TikTok, these folks are huge. 30 million combined followers on social. They've been married about 10 years. They're from Texas. Couple kind of famously has been together since age 14, got married in 2014 and have 2 sons. And apparently they're calling it quits over alleged infidelity on his part. There's all kinds of news here about stuff that's going on with them. And they owned a production company together doing like wedding videos, ironically. And a comment to the story here on TMZ says, this is just about the only YouTube couple I like. She's so funny. This is a bummer, especially for their kids. Good point. So we wish them well. We hope the best for the children, but no details right now. TMZ's reached out to the couple for information. I'm guessing they won't be forthcoming on giving TMZ the scoop, but we shall see if there's details coming out. They are getting divorced in Texas, which I have friends who own divorce law firms in Texas, and that is still kind of old school state. By the way, alimony, very tough to get in maintenance, or very tough to get in Texas, tough maintenance laws, what we call maintenance. And they still allow jury trials in Texas if the parties want them for divorce cases, which is wild. That will keep you up to date on. So Rahul, tell us, this is an interesting story we came across. We've heard this before, and I don't know if we've talked about it, Rahul. Who initiates divorces more on average, and what's the scoop?
Yeah, so this is and we'll link the video, but this is a video from CBS, the CBS morning show. And the answer, I know everyone's wondering, who initiates divorces more? Women. Right. So according to this video on CBS morning show, approximately 69% of divorces are initiated by women. They note that while men often, quote unquote, check out first due to infidelity, abuse, or some other reasons, women are frequently the ones who take the formal step to end the marriage by officially filing for divorce. So 69% of women, 69% of divorces are initiated by women. The speakers also suggest that women tend to grieve at the end of a relationship, while men are more likely to replace a relationship quickly and tend to maybe grieve during the process, I would suspect. That's just my 2 cents. That was not actually in the video. And despite initial pain and potential financial hits to income, their research shows 75% of women do not regret their divorce, often finding that it leads to significant personal transformation and a new identity. So check out the video. Interesting stuff. It's one of those things where we think about, and it's sort of supported by metrics.
Percentage of women initiating divorce. A couple of comments on that. One is oftentimes both people want to get divorced. Let's say it's done collaboratively or by mediation or whatever. It's kind of just happenstance whose name is on the top. And it really doesn't mean much of anything. The data can be screwed up a little bit in that respect, and that, divorce lawyers know it doesn't matter really who's there, and it can just be random. The 2 lawyers talked and said, you file. Now, if the numbers are that much over 50-50, that tells you directionally that something's happening. So I'm not saying it's not a thing. What I can say is, I guess anecdotally in our practice, I'd be interested to see our numbers if we could figure out by going through the names and everything, like how many more women than men have initiated the case. Or also, initiating is sort of different than filing. Like somebody might move out and then just not file the case right away, and then the wife ends up filing. So I don't know. There's a lot of things going on there. One thing I have theorized in the past, and usually women will ask this, but sometimes guys, if there's another relationship going on, let's say there's an affair or something, and they'll say, why are they still here? Don't they want a divorce too? And, they have this girlfriend already. And I say, well, they would like to stay married to you. They, in a lot of cases, they still love their wife. Now you say that's not possible because there's an affair. Well, you'd be surprised. I mean, that's what guys will, I don't know if it's just guys, but what people will say, they want the whole thing. They want their kids, they want the house and things to stay the same, and they want the other person because their needs aren't met in some way. Now, I'm not talking about the serial cheaters, the person that just can't help themselves and never should be married. This is the person that something's broken in the marriage and they're going to find it elsewhere. Not saying it's right, but that's what they're doing. And then, but they like a lot of things about their marriage too. And then push comes to shove. Rightly so. The wife shouldn't have to accept that state of affairs or that situation. So it makes sense. And when I say things like, well, he likes you doing the laundry, I'm being, okay, this isn't me being sexist. I'm just kind of using it as an example. He likes that you're home with the kids or you're taking care of the children. The house is nice. You have a nice home life. There's a lot to like about it. Nobody likes their life being turned upside down. The reason they're not running out of the house is it's a pretty nice situation and they're getting all their needs met. Well, of course, they don't want to change that. And a lot of times the wife has to say it's over and then file, because the other person would just accept this situation as is. That's my amateur anecdotal take on that. Or why would that be? Why would the guy sit there? And there are women that'll sit there too. If they have a boyfriend or something and they're enjoying whatever else is the benefits of the marriage, they may stay too. But it's more common to see it the other direction. Okay. So let's move on to listener questions, Rahul. We got a few that are good.
Yes, we do. So this first one is for you, Rafe. So this is again from our Facebook group, the Illinois, what is it called? Lawyer Network?
Illinois Divorce Support Network, our private Facebook group. Free to join, anonymous to post, and we answer your questions. And so we also crowdsource. The 1,500, 1,600 members of the group answer your questions.
So here's a question. If a person has temporary sole medical decision-making and the other party hires a nurse for a medically fragile child to only work in one home and not the other, is that violating the court order? And that person says that it's okay for him to do that because the nurse is only working in his house, that he didn't need any input, agreement, or anything from the person holding medical decision-making. What remedies would the person who has sole decision-making have? So basically, the court ordered that one person gets sole decision-making temporarily. And so this person is saying, well, when the child is in my care, can I hire a nurse? I'm not really making a decision. It's just someone I'm hiring to care for this child. Is that violating the order?
Okay. So temporary orders by nature are short and sweet, and they don't cover all the circumstances. So, and just for brief explanation, folks, Illinois calls it allocation of parental responsibility or decision-making, not custody. But custody is the same concept. It is who makes decisions for the child about healthcare, education, religion, and extracurricular activities. In Illinois, we split them into those 4 quadrants, and typically they're all assigned to one parent. But sometimes just one is assigned to a parent for one reason or another. So it's possible that all other aspects are joint and medical is sole. So this parent says, hey, this doesn't seem right. They hired an in-home nurse for themselves. And can they do that? My response to that is, assuming there's no change in care and assuming that other person's paying the bills, and let's assume this is just a medically challenged child that needs a lot of attention. This is really a borderline case, and we're talking about a temporary order. I would be reluctant to be the one running into court on a petition for rule to show cause, which is a motion to have the other person held in contempt of court. I would say, look at the result. Is the child doing well? Is the nurse unobtrusive? If they prescribe different meds or they're changing the child's care, I think that's problematic, and the circumstances are really important. But if this person is just helping take care of this child and the child needs a lot of attention, I don't see that there's a problem. And I think it's going to be weird for them to go into court and say, I have sole decision-making. I should have been choosing this nurse. It's iffy. And you're going to spend $5,000 fighting that issue. So I guess, the heart of the medical decision-making issue is who's the doctors they're using, what are the prescriptions, what's the course of treatment, all that kind of stuff. And if it's just a nurse who's doing caretaking functions, I don't know where you're going with that, really. I'm just saying, I think it's chancy. In the group, I asked some questions of the person a little bit to clarify this whole thing. And the main issue was actually financial. This person said, well, I don't have the benefit of a nurse, and why does he get to hire a nurse for his place? Well, that's a support issue. That's really not a decision-making issue. That's hey, this isn't right financially. Maybe this person should be, and I don't know that they don't mention their finances. So I don't know if this person presumably the mother can afford a in-home care or not, or what. So it seemed like that was more of the issue rather than, basically I was saying, is there some problem with the care that the nurse is doing? And there is kind of like the person sidestepped that. Well, to me, that's the thing the judge is going to want to know.
And is it good for the kid to have a nurse? Is that in the child's best interest? Right?
And I'm assuming it is, that the person wasn't objecting to that. It was more like they didn't share in the decision. So let me ask you this one. Here's another one, Rahul. This one's on relocation of children. Here's the story. Curious to know if anyone's won a relocation case. I know about 4 posts down. This is in our group. Someone asked a similar question. I've done 4 to 6 lawyer consultations where each one's told me this is impossible. Well, okay, side note, that should tell you something. Okay. Lawyers like to have clients hire them. And if 4 to 6 of them tell you it's a long shot, it's a long shot. But we'll let Rahul answer this one. Parenting time will be guaranteed to him and advised to just leave and see if my spouse files anything based on my criteria as follows. And Rahul, I found some more information out that I do have it in the notes here, which I'll tell you. Spouse works 12 to 14-hour days, Monday to Thursday. I work from home and keep our child, I'm guessing, during that time. Does not partake in childcare / needs unless asked so. Not particularly an active father. No family in this state. I'm guessing she means her family. This is a female for what it's worth. This will not be a case of alimony or maintenance. We make equally as much. We don't have any assets. We haven't been married long. So I found out it's a 3-year marriage. The child is only 2 years old. Any advice or insight would be great. Okay, Rahul. So what say you? Short marriage, young kid, kind of this sort of typical situation. Mom does the parenting. Is she going to be able to relocate?
As a general rule, I always tell people in relocation cases, especially in Illinois, again, your mileage may vary at your state. In Illinois, pre-decree, doing a relocation is extremely difficult, if not impossible. That's just a general thing. Post-decree changes a little bit. But pre-decree, extremely difficult. Because again, the courts look at the factors, what's in the child's best interest, supporting case law. And I don't know if there's much, if any, case law out there that allows you to relocate pre-decree. But nevertheless, that's something people can research. For this specific issue, it sounds like this is a pre-decree case because she says support is not an issue, maintenance. It suggests, her sort of explanation suggests that they're not divorced yet. So she wants to get divorced and she wants to leave. Some additional questions for her. How far are you going to go? Are you going to go to, it's out of state because she says nobody lives in the state. So you're going to Indiana, or are you going to Wisconsin, or are you going to Florida? Or are you going somewhere just far enough away where it's not possible? It sounds like some of the other attorneys said the father, your spouse, will get some parenting time. That's right. That's in the statute. One of the factors is, can you craft a parenting plan that allows reasonable parenting time for the parent who hasn't relocated?
Yeah, like our state's public policy, right, Rahul, is to encourage both parents to be active in the lives of the children.
Exactly. And I always tell people the goal of the court is not going to be how can we keep one person away from the child. The goal of the court is always going to be what can we do to make sure the child has both parents consistently in the child's life. So running in saying I have X, Y, and Z issues, so he should never see the child, the court's not going to say, yes, you're right, he should never see the child. No. How can we fix it?
Yeah, and along those lines, Rahul, can you address the whole past is not prologue thing we run into all the time, where people say, but he did nothing, and I've been the one who raised these kids, and it's been X number of years, and he doesn't do anything, and I do all the parenting. And they kind of say, therefore, that's how it should continue.
Exactly. So what has happened in the past is but one factor. The court looks at, not relocation, looking at relocation aside, about 17 factors that determine what a child's best interests are. And a parent's contribution during the marriage towards child care, child rearing, etc., is a factor, but it's not the most powerful factor. It's not the sole factor. It's not the most important factor. I'd argue it probably is the least or among the bottom tier of factors that considered, because when you're married, your life is different than when you're divorced. When you're married, everyone has delineated duties. One person might be the primary breadwinner. One person might be relegated to spending majority of their time rearing a child or caretaking functions because the other person is doing the breadwinning, for example. Not always, but there are all these different things. So sort of trying to portray that one person hasn't participated in childcare during the marriage, and therefore that's how it should be during a divorce, is not the case, because if you think about it, it's sort of like, well, one person never worked or made any money during the divorce, during the marriage. So I shouldn't have to pay them anything because they didn't do anything during the marriage. So why should I do it? They never contributed. So why should I divide my assets with this person if they never contributed to it? It's all my money, right? So we can't, but that doesn't work. So I think obviously kids aren't property, but I think the rationale is similar enough where that's important. So anyway, about this relocation question, without getting too far on a tangent here.
And the court's going to give the other parent a chance.
Oh, absolutely.
To step up.
To step up and to show, can this person have the time? We've talked about previously how the court appoints a guardian ad litem or some other professional to investigate, the circumstances, see what everyone is. They might set a temporary schedule to see how things are going before locking in a permanent schedule, etc. So there's a lot of things the court can do. But for a relocation, it's sort of like you have to prove that it's in the child's best interest to go with you. And how are you going to be able to still maintain this contact with the other spouse, with the child's other parent, right? And that's the biggest thing. And it's one of those that I would also agree is going to be extremely, extremely difficult, if not impossible. Obviously, not knowing some of the other factors. If the only reason is he works 12 to 14-hour days, Monday to Thursday, hasn't really done much, and I have no family in the state. So basically, sort of like I moved here for him. We're getting divorced. I'd like to move back home. That's kind of what it sounds like, right? It's not going to be that cut and dry. I'd hate to say it. I mean, I think you probably need without knowing anything more. My suggestion is, or my guess would be, you probably need more. You probably don't have enough to relocate just yet.
Yeah, I agree with you.
Or next one, changing attorneys. This is an interesting one, Rafe. So this person asks, is changing attorney the third time? So if I'm changing an attorney for the third time, is that a bad look for me? Or the fourth time? I feel like my attorney is not the right fit, nor have my previous attorneys been the right fit. I'm having no communication, and the current one doesn't seem to be on my side. I feel like she's siding with opposing counsel more than myself. Thoughts?
It's legal to change lawyers as many times as you want, but if you're changing, you're going to hire the fourth lawyer. I'm sorry, but the court and guardian and other people involved in the case are going to think you're the problem. It's not unusual to have a lawyer that you don't fit with, it doesn't work well, or they're not responsive, and you fire one, you find another one. It's not uncommon to find somebody that changes lawyers once and gets another attorney and they're satisfied with that person. To have 3 lawyers in a row not satisfy you and you hire the fourth one, first of all, what's the guarantee the fourth one's going to make you happy? How are they any different? Secondly, it gets very expensive to bring these lawyers up to speed because they have to go back and review everything and pick up the slack and take off where the person left off, which is not easy. And the judge is going to think maybe you're the problem. Kind of like our joke about, the third time that somebody gets married or the third divorce, it's them. You can blame maybe 2 people, say like, oh, they were terrible. Oh, the second person was terrible. The third time it's you because either you can't pick them or you can't keep them one way or the other. So if you're done with 3 lawyers, either you've got the most unbelievable run of bad luck in finding attorneys, or maybe it's you. Without knowing details under the hood or anything or being able to talk to the lawyers, there's no way to know what this person's expectations were, or what was happening or not happening. But all I have is this message. And here's the thing. Here's one other thing I thought was interesting. The current one doesn't seem to be on my side. Feel like she's siding with opposing counsel. Okay. That's probably because she's telling you stuff you don't want to hear. And that's probably because she's doing the right job for you. We're not doing this for our health. We're doing it to, we're doing it as our profession. We're doing it to stay in business. And that means doing right by people, believe it or not, and telling people what we really think. And that isn't always popular. I've said before, I'm the weatherman. I don't make the weather. And Rahul's in that boat. We're all in that boat. And if you're running a law firm that's doing it right, you deliver bad news and you tell people this is the way it is. The happy talk lawyers, the yes man lawyer, those are guys to run away from. If you want a lawyer that just tells you everything you want to hear, that's a terrible lawyer. You're going to run off the road and get a terrible result. You need a lawyer that's like a good doctor. They tell you what the diagnosis is based on the evidence. They give you good advice on the treatment, and that's competency. That's professionalism. If a doctor came in and said and BS'd you and said, "Oh, you're going to be fine," and meanwhile you have results that say you have cancer, and they say, "Oh, just do this treatment. Don't do the serious treatment. Do this little one." The result will be bad. So maybe that's not a great comparison, but you want frequent communication. If a lawyer isn't communicating with you, that's bad. If a lawyer is misleading you, that's bad. If they're not delivering work product on time, that's bad. Sure. And I list all that. And there's a chapter in my book literally how to know when to fire your lawyer and also how to find a great lawyer, divorce lawyer. And I also talk about the meta case. The meta case is the case outside of the facts and the law. It's what people think about you, including, and very importantly, the judge. We don't have juries in our state, and most states don't use juries for divorce trials. And if the judge thinks you're a goofball, that's going to be held against you in some fashion. It's impossible to know. But when there's something on the fence, do you think the judge is going to decide in your favor or the other guy's favor if you've dumped 4 lawyers in a row and you seem unreasonable? You tell me. That's all part of what the judge has in the back of their mind, maybe not in front of their mind, but when they're judging you and your character, that has to be there somewhere. So anyway, my answer is, yeah, it's important, and be very careful when jumping ship from one lawyer to another.
Fool me, we can't get fooled again.
That's right. That's it. Thanks to George Bush there.
Yeah.
So tell us, we got a couple more stories to wrap up the show. First, we want to tell you this is brought to you by STG Divorce Law, rated one of the best law firms in the state of Illinois for divorce law. Also just rated best law firm by Best Law Firms, Tier 1 in Chicago. Very proud of that for 2026. And a few of our lawyers got that rating, including myself. Rahul's been rated a super lawyer, and I believe a leading lawyer also for Leading Lawyers Network. Most of our lawyers are award-winning, and we're all over Chicagoland, here to help smart, successful people get divorced in Chicagoland. So check us out, stglawfirm.com. That's stglawfirm.com. I would be remiss if I didn't mention Rahul's socials right on the screen here if you're watching on video, at Chicago Divorce and at Esquire, ESQUIYER. And you can follow me on social at Rayford Palmer and at STG Divorce Law. I have a best-selling book, I Just Want This Done, same title as the show, How Smart, Successful People Get Divorced Without Losing Their Kids' Money and Minds, available on Amazon Kindle and where all great ebooks are sold. For you Nook fans or you Apple Book folks, we take care of you, and it's out there too. Hardcover, softcover also, if you like to write in the margins. Okay, so a couple of dating trend stories. This one about Gen Z, always popular these days to talk about the Gen Zers. This story is this came out in Business Insider. So check this out. This is interesting. The biggest trend in Gen Z dating, a search for steady life with financial stability, says Coffee Meets Bagel. That, I think, is a dating app. Their CEO says the American dream is unaffordable without dual incomes. Money's a huge consideration for young daters. More than ever, daters are seeking committed, financially sound partners. Okay, well, guess what? That's been forever. Since I love when trends are like stuff we all know, in the category of things we all know. But the co-CEO of the dating app said to Business Insider, money and economics are huge considerations. He's pointing out it's hard to buy a house, afford property. Younger people are staying home with their parents. It's affordable to live the American dream with a family. You need dual incomes to afford the median condominium or house. No, that stuff is true. There's all kinds of data backing that up. And you can team up as 2 people and do better than one because you're sharing a roof and you're putting your finances together. So this person says that Gen Zs are much more conscious about long-term relationships and they're less into hookups, according to the CEO. So I thought that was interesting. In the dating trend stuff we've seen, I haven't seen this reported. So I thought this was real interesting. And it talks about stats about grocery prices, housing costs, and that's no joke. We know those things have gone up a lot with inflation. Interesting enough, the percentage of adults living without a partner has decreased from 44% in 2019 to 42% in 2023. Pew Research Center talked about that. So I thought that was an interesting one. So Rahul, tell us about an important safety tip from the show. You got an important safety tip, so we sound the alarm. Tell us about that.
Absolutely. This is a WPR article, which I can only imagine stands for Wisconsin Public Radio. So this is a case out of Milwaukee, or not a case, but a situation out of Milwaukee. Milwaukee police urge caution after rise in quote unquote bait and switch robberies involving dating apps. So they're warning residents, they meaning Milwaukee police are warning residents about a surge in bait and switch robberies involving dating apps, particularly Grindr. So for all you Grindr users out there, suspects are using the app to essentially set up meetups with victims, like, your date, and then they're robbed. And so Milwaukee Common Council, the LGBT Community Center, are urging residents to use caution, especially using Grindr, but just using any other dating app as well. Be cautious because, we always hear about catfishing and stuff. A lot of times it's just sort of harmless fun in terms of you go out, you show up and the person isn't anybody who looks like who you think it is, but it's still a date. It's still a date. But in this situation, it's sort of like they are there to actively cause you harm, financial, physical, whatever the case is. So they say, be very careful, vet the person before you go there. Connecting with others, whether for friendship, dating, or relationships, should never put anybody at risk. So it says, be very careful. They say the bait and switch robbery can happen when someone's using the app and agrees to meet with someone in person, of course. And then suddenly they show up and then someone else is there, or it's 3 people instead of 1, and it's not at all what they're expecting. So definitely you'd be shocked. You'd get out of the car and you get jumped, essentially.
Yeah, so they give some tips. Rahul, can you tell us about those safety tips? I thought those were good.
Yeah, some of the tips here are, include research the person. So vet them. You plan on meeting before you go meet with them. If they say, if you meet them on Grindr, Hinge, Bumble, Tinder, whatever, look them up on other social media, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, etc. Telling someone else where you're going and what your plans are if you plan on meeting up with someone on dating apps. So tell a friend or family member or whomever else that, hey, I'm going here. If you don't hear from me by this time, something has gone awry. Meet in a public place, of course. Don't go to their house or some random place. Listen to your gut. If your instinct says something's off, it probably is. Stay sober. Don't get drunk. Don't let anybody, for lack of a better word, roofie you. Don't have your drink open, waiting, for someone to drop something in. Don't give out private information when meeting up for a date, and never entertain requests for money.
Yeah, those are great tips.
Be careful out there, folks.
Be careful out there. We're looking out for you guys. Take it easy. We hope you like the show. Please give us comments. Like, share, subscribe for more content like this. We come out with a new show every week. This is episode 50. We're very excited that we've been through 50. We'll have another 50. We're going to keep on going. Thanks a lot, everybody. Have a great day.
Thanks.